We are live. We are live. Welcome to PATC Breakfast. Welcome everybody to college football's peek around the corner with your host, Greg Flugar. We cover everything in college football because we love everything in college football. And if you do as well, please subscribe to our channel. Smash the like button if you like our content. Share the video with your family and friends if you want to support this show, this Rebel Outpost college football channel. If you want to support it through a donation, hit the $ where you put a comment in, and we'll get to your super chat as quick as possible. Welcome to the studio that sits on the corner of Keith Jackson Parkway in Kurt Gowdy Avenue. Do not be afraid. Do not be afraid to be a legend in the chat room and with your phone calls later in this very show. Holy smokes, Josh Pate. So, where do we begin? Yesterday, live show. We did a live show, PATC, Sunday afternoon. It was a comfortable, breezy Sunday afternoon, and we were talking Big 12 quarterback rankings for the 2024 season, 1 through 16. Some disagreements, some elbows were thrown, which is to be expected. And then we also talked about some information that I had received. Regarding the college football playoffs. The scuttlebutt would be by a particular Big Ten administrator, not from the University of Minnesota. And that scuttlebutt, and I'll just go through it real quick, basically was, we're going to get to 16. There's going to be 8 first-round games on campus. There's going to be the quarterfinals and the semifinals are going to be your New Year's Six bowl games. And then we're going to get to the championship game. And those auto bids are going to happen. They're going to get forced through. There's going to be 4 for the SEC, 4 for the Big Ten. This is the scuttlebutt from a Big Ten administrator. Probably will keep conference championship games, but they're more vulnerable than they've ever been. But the conferences want to keep them. But looks like we're going to 16. During the show yesterday, I was given the heads up from somebody in the PATC community, keeping their head on a swivel, that Josh Pate, hours before, on his X account, formerly known as Twitter, Josh Pate put out saying something to the effect of, there is smoke on what is really going on with the negotiations of the college football playoffs. Well, that piqued my interest. In fact, I believe I said on yesterday's live show, I said, I bet Josh Pate is going to say something similar to what I just told you all here on this Sunday live PAT show. So, we passed around the times in the chat room. We passed around a lot of stuff. We passed around the timing of the show. I think it was 7:50 Eastern time. He did not come on until 8 o'clock Eastern time, 7 o'clock Central time. I watched it. I watched the first part of it. And boy, what Josh Pate reported was nothing like the information that PATC received. So, what does that mean? I don't know, but we're going to be following the story. We are going to go into what Josh Pate said. We are going to use his own post on X this morning when he basically laid out his bullet points on the scuttlebutt that he's been hearing. And what he's been hearing is divisions, that the Big Ten and the SEC is restructuring to go back into divisions, either one or both. He went through the reasons why the Big Ten and the SEC would have a tournament at the end of the season. And then whoever wins their tournament would go into the playoffs, a smallish structured playoffs. I'm going to tell you, we're going to give Josh Pate's report the light of day. I know a lot of people love it. Some people may not love it. We're going to go through your chats. We're going to go through your super chats. We're going to go through your phone calls. But I got to tell you, this is basically the exact opposite of what I'm hearing. Divisions, pods have been talked about for years. The conference tournament, having a semifinal weekend, has been talked about for years. And I can almost buy the conference tournament part where the top 4 teams would play. We are getting completely different information. Let me first show you what Josh Pate said. But before that, I want to get through the comments. I want to thank everybody who's come on in at the beginning of this PATC Emergency Breakfast Show. Skull Ducky is in the house. John Bennett, early peak member Bailey Patrick, Wolverine J Go Blues in the house. Early peak member Moon Cat, the Walking Geek, Kyle Visser, the Evil Badger. The Evil Badger, a great friend of mine, has walked into the chat. Holy smokes. JD Turtle is in the house. The Husky, Ted Evans, is in the house. He believes it makes sense even though he doesn't like it. Thomas Hickman, Randy Taylor, CFB Plus, is this real? The division talk? Maybe for AQs? Well, according to Josh Pate, it is real. Again, I've had some discussions this morning. He's not talking to the same people that I'm talking to, but again, maybe PATC's wrong on this. So we're going to go through Josh Pate's reports here. Jeff Olson says, bring on the divisions. Matt Schnuck is in the house. Holy smokes. Divisions, immaculate. Well. The phone lines are not open yet, ladies and gentlemen. The phone lines are not open yet. Tuffy Duffy is in the house. Friends Call Me Sean is in the house. Facts Over Fandom. Back to divisions. Immaculate loves these early morning shows. Lee is in the house. Josh Pate said a lot of things. Daniel Montcastle, Mr. Hoosier. D5 Terps is in the house. Jimmy is in the house. Holy smokes. Got a lot of people coming on in early in the morning. Hughes D, I love this channel. Hughes D, I love you coming in. I love you coming in to the chat. Cameron B, Rock, Chalk, Jayhawk. Did he watch our Big 12 quarterback rankings for the 2024 season? Did Cameron B watch our live show yesterday? There's a certain quarterback that we've got listed number 1. Did Cameron B watch the live show? Raider Vision brings up a very good point. I'm going to illustrate it. We're going to use PATC Chalk Talk during the live show today. How? We'll get into it. Okay. Cameron B missed it yesterday. You're going to have to go back and watch it, Rock Chalk. You're going to have to go back and watch it. Okay, here we go. Let's get to it. Let's get to the one issue that we're going to be talking about today, this morning. Now, could we be doing a live show later on tonight? Yes, we can. We very well could. Keep your head on a swivel. We're going to be seeing more and more reports about what the college football playoffs is going to look like for 2026 and beyond. The great gold rush is here. Elbows are being thrown. Discussions are going on constantly. There's going to be different reports. We're going to go through Josh Pate's report of last night. So keep your head on a swivel. Make sure you subscribe. Open up your notifications. Josh Pate. Now, Josh Pate talked about this last night on his show, YouTube channel show, and he put out this post to basically go over the bullet points. 2 things I believe baked into the ongoing CFP talks. Again, this is Josh Pate, late kick Josh. This is what he's reporting. This is not what PATC is reporting. Number 1, the Big Ten and the SEC are preparing to expand again. That I would agree with, obviously. That's what we've been reporting on for quite a while. But that's about the extent that I would disagree with that I would agree with on Josh Pate's reporting. That and the fact that, yes, they all want to keep their conference championship games, all these conferences. Number 1, Big Ten and the SEC are preparing to expand again. Number two, one or both, and I'm going to circle back to that. It's going to have to be either none or both. I do not understand the reporting of one, but anyways, one or both will restructure into 4 divisions and look to construct internal conference title mechanisms that either are part of the CFP, i.e. conference semifinals plus conference title games, or will produce a conference champs to compete in the CFP, possibly reduced in size. Number one, Big Ten and the SEC are preparing to expand again. We're not going to have to go through that again, right? We know this. We know that the ACC is possibly going to implode. It looks like it is. And some of those schools will be moving into one or both those conferences, probably both. We don't have to touch upon that number one again. Josh Pate and PATC are in agreement. But Josh Pate takes it a whole nother level. Josh Pate says one or both of the SEC of the Big Ten will restructure into 4 divisions and look to construct internal conference title mechanisms that either are part of the CFP or will produce a conference champ to compete in a CFP, possibly reduced in size. First of all, let me just say, the people that I have talked to, even this morning, now some of them have said, everything's being looked at, every possible scenario is being looked at. That is the closest conversation I had with this being a possibility. Every other discussion I've had is, nah, this ain't happening. The Big Ten is not interested in going back to divisions at this time. Could there be a development of a conference semifinal weekend? This has been talked about for years. The old Michigan State athletic director, Hollis and Delaney, talked about this. This has been talked about for years. Jim Harbaugh talked about it. He brought it up in Big Ten meetings. This conference semifinal, we talked about it for the 18 months we've been on the show. But in this time of a bigger conference, of a college football playoffs, we have not heard any steam on this. And the division part, again, talked to a few people this morning, one of them saying, everything probably being brought up. And the other conversations I've had is no way is the Big Ten going into divisions. They do not have the support within the conference to do this. They just got away from divisions. They are not. It's so difficult for competitive balance to create divisions. It makes no sense. The athletic directors want to play each other more often. They believe that it will tie the conference together more strongly. You play each other more often. Schools do not want to have. Now, if you're talking about the Big Ten, and if you're talking about 18 schools, you're going to have to go 3 divisions of 6. And there's no way that the Big Ten, they can project. The Big Ten can project they're at 20 schools for 2026. But they don't know if they're going to be at 20 schools in 2026. And the development of the 2026 playoffs, they want it all. They want to get it done in the next 4 weeks. So whatever they decide upon, it's happening now. It has to happen now. So if the Big Ten, we're talking the Big Ten. We'll get to the SEC in a little bit here. If the Big Ten is really thinking about divisions again, they first have to think of 3 divisions of 6 teams and have a wild card and go ahead and try to structure 3 divisions of 6 teams. I try to do it. I'm going to show it to you in a little bit here. Chalk Talk, PATC Chalk Talk. It's not easy. Teams don't want to have 5 continuous permanent rival games. They don't want that. Iowa wanted 3. Minnesota took 2. A lot of schools wanted 1. Penn State wanted none. They don't want to go. They do not want to have anything to do. So I am surprised. I am shocked that Josh Pate, this is part of his report. Now it says 1 or both. So maybe Josh Pate is talking about the SEC going into divisions. 4 pods of 4 teams. And then if they expand, they can easily expand into 4 pods of 5 teams, right? Going from 16 to 20 teams. Taking 4 ACC schools. I suppose that's a possibility. But the Big Ten part of this, I'm having a real hard time digesting. It says 1 or both. So it could be that the SEC is going to do it and the Big Ten is not going to do it. But then again, the SEC and the Big Ten both having their semifinal. And let me put it this way. Don McNearly, I thank you so much for your super chat. Thank you for your continued generosity to this channel. Thank you so very much. Your 3rd super chat for our channel. Thank you, Donnie. Appreciate it. Also, there's something. So, and we're going to get to your chats. We're going to get to your phone calls immediately. Emergency live breakfast PATC show talking about divisions. We're going back to divisions. Josh Pate, again, I'll put up on the screen. One thing I want to talk about here about the SEC. The Big Ten, the Big Ten, the people we've talked to do not want to go back to divisions. And I don't think the media partners want to go back to divisions. Tony Petitti wants a conference race, 18 teams, soon to be 20 teams, and he wants those conference games to have more and more and more part of the playoff discussion where the top 4 gets an auto bid. This is where Tony Petitti's working. Now, he might not be successful. He might not get it, but this is where the Big Ten's looking at. The SEC. So, according to this report, the SEC would have a conference champion. They would have an internal conference tournament. They would have a conference champion. And then they would play against the Big Ten conference champion, the ACC, the Big 12. To me, and I know people have tried to explain it to me. I know Immaculate loves the idea. They don't want to go back to 2 divisions. Having 4 divisions, not going backwards. But they can't plan to go 4 divisions right now. They can make plans, but they don't know if it's going to happen. But anyway, and I'm going to go through the SEC wants to have the opportunity to have 2, 3 teams in the Final Four of the National Championship Tournament. They want all that exposure. They want their teams to say they made it that far. I don't think they want to self-annihilate themselves in a conference tournament, only to have one team go to this condensed, smaller college football playoff. That's not what the SEC wants, or at least it's not what we believe that they want. Rock and Rant, thank you for the super chat. Greg, how can you do this to me? Coming on at 7:50. Let me, again, a lot of people, look, as a fan, I would like this. Also, in some aspects, if you have a Big Ten conference tournament, Fox would be the media rights holder of that. Right? They would have essentially the first round, the second round of one part of the college football playoffs to themselves. Okay, now let's take a look. Be patient with me. Hold on. PATC, Chalk Talk, Big Ten, and SEC divisions. Now, I put them in divisions prior to further expansion. Because again, they can project that they're going to expand, but they don't know for sure that they're going to be able to expand, right? So the SEC, they're trying to figure out 2026 playoffs, right? So I just put up this possibility. Oklahoma, Texas, Texas A&M, Arkansas in one division. Alabama, Auburn, Mississippi State in another division. Tennessee, LSU, Missouri, Vanderbilt in another division. Georgia, Florida, South Carolina, Kentucky in another division. You can have them however you want. One of the things is competitive balance, right? I mean, Florida could be the second best SEC team in the country, in the conference. Well, they're not going to be. Excuse me. But in theory, okay, let's choose another one. In theory, Oklahoma could be, or let's say Texas. Texas could be the second best team in the SEC in 2026. But because Texas A&M is better, we're just pretending here, that Texas doesn't make it to their conference semifinal weekend. All I can tell you from everybody that has talked to PATC, this reporting of Josh Pate goes against basically everything we've been told. It doesn't mean he's wrong. He could be absolutely right, and we could be absolutely wrong here at Peek Around the Corner. Or there could be incredible factions and divisions in and around how they're going to set up 2026. But for this to happen, they're going to have to go back to the SEC and the Big Ten. And this is going to have to be figured out. I don't know. And then, here's the Big Ten. I don't know. I have no idea how you do this 3 divisions. Now, Immaculate says 4 divisions. Of course, it would go to 4 divisions, but you can't plan that right now for 2000. You cannot create a college football playoff for 2026, create a Big Ten playoff structure to incorporate itself into the playoffs with four teams, 4 divisions of 5 teams, because it may not happen. So I've got Oregon, Washington, UCLA, USC, Northwestern, and Illinois. Wisconsin, Minnesota, Iowa, Nebraska, Indiana, Purdue, Penn State. Again, not competitive balance at all. So then you start mixing them up a little bit. I don't know. Again, it's pretty much the opposite of what we've been told is what's going on right now. Now, I'm interested in other reports possibly coming in this morning. We know that they had conversations over the weekend. It's one of the reasons we were told something on Sunday morning. It's why we had a live show. So this stuff is being talked about constantly. They didn't take the weekend off. They're not taking this week off. We're going to be seeing reports probably today on how the college football playoff structure, how it's going to happen, because they got so much work to get done. And we were told that the Big Ten is pushing seriously for auto bids, and it's probably going to get kicked up to 16 teams. We didn't hear anything of what Josh Pate heard. But again, he could be absolutely right. I'm very, very interested. Greg, top 4 irrespective of pods and divisions. Okay. Into the playoffs. Then you don't create the pods and divisions, right? But that is what Josh Pate is saying. Yes, that's true. Rocket Rant, the most important thing that Josh said, and he began his show saying this, that no one, not the commissioners, not the networks, not the school president, know where this is ultimately going to land. That is true. He started his show by saying that. But on his tweet this morning, his post, 2 things he believed are baked in going into the CFP talks. Baked into that one or more of the SEC and the Big Ten will restructure themselves into 4 divisions. Very interesting times indeed. Now, if this report, if there is smoke, he called it smoke, if it's happening, how do you want the divisions to be created in the Big Ten and the SEC? Do you think a semifinal weekend works in this new world of college football? I love the idea. I love the conference semifinal weekend. I do. Take the top 4, do yourself a 4-team little playoff for the conference championship. I like that idea. But the pods, according to what we've been told, has absolutely, it's been completely rejected by the Big Ten. Has it brought itself back up again? As Josh Pate inferred, we shall see. I'm going to open up the phone lines right now. Do not be afraid to be a legend. Let me know what you're thinking. The phone lines are now open. 763-260-1333. Is the Big Ten going back to divisions? The SEC going back to divisions? Will the Big 12 do so? Will the ACC do so? Maybe expand eventually with the ACC implosion, expand with a couple more teams out west. Oregon State, Washington State, create a division, create a pod. Let us know. The phone lines are open. 763-260-1333. We got new people coming on in. Merc the Gamer. I personally think 4 pods of 6 would be pretty awesome in moving to 10 conference games. if this dude is right, Josh Pate, the SEC would need to add 4, which goes against all reports. Well, not necessarily. They can go 4 pods of 4 teams. Right? But if they do expand, they probably would have to take 4 of them. Immaculate is waiting to see if anyone calls first. Go ahead, Immaculate. We know you love Josh Pate's report. Come on in. The floor will be yours. Anybody call in 763-260-133. Again, this morning, Josh Pate, late kick Josh. 2 things I believe are baked into going CFP talks. Big Ten and the SEC are preparing to expand again. 1 or both will restructure into 4 divisions. Look to construct internal conference title mechanisms that are either a part of the CFP or will produce a conference champ to compete in a CFP, possibly reduced in size.
Call from
Immaculate.
Mr. Hawkeye is on the line. The floor is yours, sir. We know you are a great supporter of this, or at least part of it, most of it. Go ahead, let it rip. Thanks for calling, sir.
Yeah, this might go a little long, so just, cut me off
problem.
when you need to. And that's why I was waiting. I wanted to see what other people thought as well. But for me, yeah, this is right up what I've been hopeful for. I've got no predictions, no nothing, and this could absolutely not be the case. I always dread if I end up getting into a talking point opposite of you because it never goes well for me.
So I'm sure it has. It has.
This actually worries me.
Yeah.
But this is, for me, this makes a lot more sense. I know that they don't want to go backwards to 2 divisions. It does not make any sense at all going forward. 2 divisions it just doesn't work with this many schools. But going forwards, I think on its own, a divisional structure doesn't make sense. But if tied to a conference tournament structure, it does, because then all those games within that division, all of them immediately become rivalry games if they weren't before. And that makes them more valuable for TV as well, because you're trying, those teams are playing each other mostly to beat each other to be that division's champion. In terms of the math, if you go 4 divisions of 5, that's 4 games. If you have a 9-game schedule, we aren't even moving to 10 games yet, but a 9-game schedule, that's 4 of your games in the division of 5, leaves you 5 games. If you have 15 other teams in the conference, that's a 3-year period on average that you'll play every other team. So it's really not that different from this new schedule that they've worked out. When you look at it, where some of them are 2, some are 3, some are 4, the average is right around 3. So with more divisions, it actually doesn't make them not play each other more. I think those guys are maybe thinking of the 2 divisions setup, because you're dead on that this whole concept, this whole idea is not possible right now. It's impossible. They need new NCAA rules, or they need autonomous conferences, full governance, so they could pass these rules themselves. But what we're seeing on the flip side of this, the opposite side, is this talk about moving the basketball tournament to 96 teams. To me, this is like both sides getting something. Like, this could be maybe possibly the negotiation. We'll expand the basketball tournament. You do this for us. Or give us the governance that we want, and then we can do this for ourselves. But so that's kind of where it is for me. In terms of the conference tournament, that also requires new rules. You can only have, right now, a single conference postseason game. It's baked into the rules. You can only have 2 divisions leading to it, and the only way you can have that is either by divisions or no divisions. So this all needs to get passed in order to happen. So it makes me wonder if there's movement happening on that regard, because it would be required. I know some folks talk about pods, but what pods are subdivisions. You can't you can't take one school from a pod. You can't have 4 pods and then have 4 teams that go forward, because the pods actually are just part of a division. So we would need full-on new divisional rules to do this. The easier thing to pass in theory would be like the idea of the 14 or the 16. But I think that we're kind of seeing that there's not agreement on it. They, right? If I'm remembering right, the reporting was that they had a 9-hour session, and now you're saying that they've had even more talks since then. I think if that was going to pass, that they would have already passed it. We're seeing them trying to get things done quickly. The time is of the essence. So what this might be like the next thing that they're moving on to try and figure out. Because
okay, let me play devil's advocate. Imagine.
Yeah.
Right. Now, Amy just put up a good comment, and this is what I was trying to get to. Internal conference championship games as part of the CFP. Would conferences want their teams eliminating each other from later playoff games instead of less powerful schools from other conferences? That is my so the end result of this vision of where you have conference tournaments, you're going to have one SEC team make the playoffs then, outside of the conference. You're going to have one SEC, you're going to have one Big Ten, you're going to have one Big 12, you're going to have one ACC, right? That's the vision, correct? You're not going to have a conference tournament in the SEC and then have 2 SEC teams make a tournament.
Correct.
Okay, so there's one SEC, one Big Ten, one here, one there, correct? I mean, that's the ultimate vision, right?
I think it would have to be. Yeah.
So
that would be like.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
And just to play devil's advocate, I think the chances of the SEC wanting to do that, agreeing to do that, to be blunt, it goes like 100% of everything that. I don't think the SEC would go for that. That's playing devil's advocate. Go ahead.
To me, what this is for me the natural order of where they go to when their discussions in that room currently do not find solution that they can all agree upon. Mm-hmm. And then at that point, the natural order of where they go with it is to say, well, since we can't come to terms on one big thing to all do together, we're each going to have to do our own big thing that then leads into something that is smaller than what we currently have. And so then each conference would be responsible for selling their own conference playoff tournament.
Yeah.
It's not like, 100% better. It's not better in every single way. Yeah, we're going to lose some of the conference, cross-conference competition. That's the downside, and I get it. But also what we're seeing, though, is like this isn't the Big Ten of old. This new future Big Ten is going to have West Coast teams. It's going to have Southeast teams. It's going to have East Coast teams. The SEC is now over in Texas and Oklahoma. It's maybe going up the East Coast with North Carolinas and the Virginias, and there's talk of Kansas. So I mean, these are not conferences of old that if they're playing within themselves, you're getting the same thing all the time. The Big 12, that's looking coast to coast. So to me, it's such a different time that we're talking about that I think it's okay. I think it's okay if each of these conferences has their own tournament and then the one winner comes out of it. Now, for me, what I like, not saying this will happen, but I like a 6-team conference of champions, or a tournament of champions, where and some people aren't going to like this, but this is tiered, and this is what I think would inevitably be agreed upon, where the Big Ten and the SEC champs are at the top, and then the second tier is the Big 12 and ACC champs, and the third tier would be 2 G5 champs, and the 2 G5 champs have to play the Big 12 and ACC champs in order to move on. Because I think what they really don't want are G5 champs playing Big Ten or SEC champs. That's just my feeling on it. So if they beat the Big 12 or ACC champ, then they have proven themselves to go on and play against the bigger guys. So the Big Ten and the SEC get essentially a bye. The Big 12 and ACC, sorry, you got to play the G5 guys first, beat them, and then you move on to play the Big Ten and the SEC champs. And then the winners of that, you basically have your Super Bowl. The one thing is, that's not 100% better than what we have now. We would lose some of the cross-conference gameplay, and that's kind of a shame that there isn't one solution that we can all have this together. But that's my big problem is I don't see them coming to agreement in that room over this expanded CFP thing. It's just it seems to be falling apart.
So what we're looking at is there's two theories on this, right? We're not when it comes to they're not going to be able to find a solution, so therefore they go smaller, or they're not going to be able to find a solution, so they go bigger. So for example, with Josh Pate, Immaculate, the whole theory is they're not going to be able to come to decisions, so conferences are going to have their own tournaments, and then the college football playoffs is going to be smaller, with the conference tournaments being the first part of that. And what I am being told here at Peek Around the Corner is they're probably not going to be able to get through what they want to get through to satisfy everybody. So they're going to go bigger. They're going to go to 16 teams where everyone's going to be able to walk out of the room and say, well, at least we got that. So interesting. Both of these theories are going on. The theory that they're not going to be able to make a decision unless they do something drastic, go bigger or go smaller. Interesting.
Yeah, this actually includes more teams and has more games, so they get to sell even more content. It's just each conference would have to sell most of it on their own. But the postseason is supply light, demand heavy. So conferences like the G5s could actually sell their content for once on TV. They could get their tournaments on TV. This is a bonus for them. I think they would really like this. I think the Big Ten and SEC would really like this. I disagree with you that the SEC folks wouldn't like this. I think every single year we've seen with the CFP, the SEC folks basically want to say we want 4 of the 4 teams to be SEC teams. like they want the tournament to be all theirs anyway. So I think that they would be fine with this.
But see, that's where I'm getting confused. Maybe I'm missing something here. Yes, the SEC would like to have 4 of the last 4 teams be SEC, but in the structure that you're putting out, there would be no possibility of that. There'd only be one SEC team.
Yeah, but I mean, like they would be watching SEC teams play SEC teams, which they think is better competition.
Yeah, but not in the last 4 teams that could win the national championship. See, in other words, like what I'm saying, what Amy said in the chat is SEC is eliminating SEC, and now you only got one shot, one SEC team in the last 6 or 4 teams, however you got it this tiered. But in now and in the future, if you go the way that I've been being told, the SEC could have 3 out of the last 4.
Yeah, but they're also being they could argue that they're being held back because if they only get 4 AQs, now I think the SEC would rather have the 16 team than the 14 team because I think that they think they're getting at least one more of those AQs. Mm-hmm. Or not the AQs, but the at-larges. Whereas with the 14 with only one at-large, most of the time that's probably Notre Dame. So they with the 14, they would be pretty much stuck with 4. Like that's what you're getting. And I know SEC folks, they probably think that they deserve more of that, which, is arguable. So I think that they would want the 16. But the problem with the 16 is that it absolutely kills the conference tournament. So it does not solve every problem. With each iteration, you have some problems that it solves, but you also have problems that it creates. That's kind of my thing. Why I think the 14 and the 16 is problematic. I have a hard time believing that you can get full-on agreement across the board on either one of those.
Okay. Beautiful, Immaculate. I appreciate you calling. I know
kind
this
of curious
is...
what folks have to say on this. I see in chat, some people like it, some people don't, and that's what this is all about. I don't think everyone's going to agree on this, so we'll see.
Beautiful,
appreciate
Immaculate.
It, have a good day.
I appreciate it. Mr. Hawkeye, he's been talking about this. Great call by Immaculate. He's been talking about this. He wants something like this to happen. There seems to be a little sunlight. Josh Pate's reporting. There it is. It was last night on his Late Kick Josh show, and now he put it out on a post on X. One or both will restructure into 4 divisions, the Big Ten and the SEC, and look to construct internal conference title mechanisms that either are a part of the CFP or would produce a conference champ to compete in a CFP possibly reduced in size. And again, PATC, we are hearing quite the opposite. John Till, if they go to 4 pods of 5, who gets left out of the BIG? Thank you for your super chat. I appreciate it. I don't think anyone's going to get left. That's 20 schools. They only have 18. If they expand to more, that's 20. So I'm not quite sure I understand the question, John. Let me know if I'm misunderstanding. I don't think anyone would be left out. No one's getting kicked out of the BIG. Appreciate it, John, though. Appreciate the super chat. I know we got a couple more of yours. Thank you for your generosity. If the G5 champ beats the Big 12, the SEC champ, swap them with the last place. Oh, so you want regulation? That's not going to happen. I don't believe that's going to happen. No way is anybody in the Power 4 conference going to agree with that. But that would add more spice and more drama, John. I appreciate the super chat. I appreciate the creativity. And John, if the G5 champ, that's the same one. Same comment. Thank you, John. Appreciate it. Appreciate your generosity so very much. The phone lines are open. 763-260-1333. What happens to Notre Dame in that scenario? I don't know. That's a great question. Grateful Trojan, great question. I don't know. And they would have to pass a bunch of stuff, and it all has to get done in a month. Or maybe Josh Pate believes it doesn't have to get done in a month. Thank you, John. Florida State, Miami, Notre Dame, who's left out of the Big Ten? Well, it won't be Notre Dame if they want to jump. So it'd be between Florida State and Miami, and I think at that point it would be Miami getting left out. Thank you, John. Appreciate super chat. Thank you so very much. Once again, John, thank you. Great call. Absolutely. Great call by Immaculate. Then does Notre Dame get an automatic invitation every year? Are we assuming they join the conference? Great question. That's a lot of work to get done in a month. But maybe Josh Pate believes it doesn't have to be done in a month for all this to happen. Again, this is about 2026. This is about nailing something down, not just for the schools, not just for the conferences, but for the media partner, ESPN. So this has got to get done. And And if you go into, yeah, I don't know. It's just, as a fan, it'd be interesting. I would like it. I would love the conference tournament. But as someone who's been talking to people for all this time, boy, this is the exact opposite of what we're being told. You have to, if you're building, if you're trying to figure out what 2026 is going to look like, and that has to happen right now. I mean, does the Big Ten know for sure that they're going to expand to 20 teams by 2026? No, they don't. So they're risking this division pod structure. They might have to go 6-6-6. All to build around a 2026 playoff. I just logically, John Till, thank you for your super chat. It's not like the Big 12, the ACC can stop it. It would be a power move of the Big 10 and the SEC to control the lower two Power 4, the chance of elevation. But Big 10, there's a lot of SEC schools in the Big 10 wouldn't want anything to do with that. I am not a believer that that's ever going to be a part of college sports. But I know some people do. Soap loves the idea. He brings it up once in a while. The chance for elevation does nothing for the Big Ten and the SEC. And I haven't heard anybody in any conversations that I've ever had brought that up to me, that that's a possibility. But again, it would bring more spice. Thank you, John. Appreciate it. What do you think of Eric Bieniemy being hired by UCLA? I say that's great. Outstanding. It should be fun. Right? It should be fun. Offensive coordinator and associated head coach, Eric Bieniemy, UCLA. I think it's a great move by the Bruins. Great move by the Bruins. Thank you for the super chat, Evil Badger Willie. Appreciate it. Is it possible the Big Ten will go to 24? Sure it is. 4 divisions of 6 teams? Sure. All that is possible. By 2026? No, I don't think so. I don't think so. Put Brett Yormark in charge and he'll get it done in a month. It's only a threat to the ACC and the Big 12. So, John, you're saying that an ACC and a Big 12 school would drop down to G5. No school's going to be dropping down anywhere if they don't get enough wins. Your media partner's not going to want that. It's just not going to happen. I'm sorry, John. I appreciate your generosity, but I got to shoot it to you straight. Regulation is not happening in college football. Jeff Olson, 6-6-6 with the best 4-team record in the Big Ten Conference Tournament. Why not have 18 teams like they do now, no pods, no divisions, and the final 4, the top 4 teams get into the conference tournament? Or have those 18 teams play, right? And the top 4 teams get an automatic bid into the college football playoffs. That is what Tony Petitti is working for. So the eyes are on the conference race in November. Who's going to get the top 4 spots? I happen to believe that's where we're going. Mooncat. If 20 teams, your guess on 2 teams of the Big and 4 to the SEC. I don't like to guess, Mooncat. I appreciate your super chat, because then people talk about my guess as me reporting it. That's happened to me, and I think Florida State is a chalk to go to the Big Ten. But again, I think Notre Dame and North Carolina would be the Big Ten's top two targets. I believe North Carolina is SEC's top target. And I'm just going to report on what we've been told, and I'm going to keep doing that. I'm not going to put out a guess. I appreciate the super chat, Mooncat, but I'll let you do that, and I'll let other people in the chat do that. I'll do some speculation, but Josh also said last night that Florida State leaving the ACC was imminent. I did not catch that part. $24 is dilution. Mooncat, I appreciate it. Thank you so much for your super chat, though. I appreciate it. Movie Time Blues. It's not the first time I've heard 24. Yeah, I just don't see a formula with the depleted ACC and the Big 12 each getting guaranteed spots in the national summit. I don't quite understand that either, Grateful. I don't know why the SEC would eliminate themselves to the point where they would have one team in the last 4 teams or the last 6 teams, last 8. It doesn't seem... And it goes against everything that I'm being told. Now, everything I'm being told, Grateful, could be absolutely wrong. And I'll take the big L on it. And I will. You guys know I will. But I think it's important, it's vital that PATC does not get caught in its own silo, its own loop of information. It's very important. Very important we talk about what Josh Pate is reporting. Not only Josh Pate, but we're going to get more of these. Probably today, tomorrow, Wednesday. Because the discussions are ongoing. They did not stop. Josh Pate picked this information up. Somebody else, there could be a Heather Dinich. There could be Pete Thamel. There could be Brett McMurphy. There could be Dennis Dodd reports coming out today discussing, maybe they confirm Josh Pate's reporting. Maybe they will confirm what Pate is saying. I don't think so. I don't believe so, but they could. And if they do, we're coming back on live again. We're coming back on live again. So buckle up, brace for impact. The phone lines are open. 763-260-1333. Do you think Josh Pate's, what he's being told, do you think that could possibly happen? John Teal.
Call from
Rick.
Can you hold on for just 1 second?
We sure can.
I appreciate it, John Teal. My Big 10 to 24 list includes Florida State, Notre Dame, Miami, Georgia Tech, Kansas, and Colorado. Thank you, John, once again for your incredible generosity to the show. Thank you for your super chat. I'm sorry, caller, I did not get the name.
Rick,
I'm sorry, Rick. Thanks for calling. I appreciate it. The floor is yours.
Yeah, I was thinking about what you've been talking about, and it seems as though both you and Josh could both be correct.
Okay, explain.
Yeah, maybe your contacts are talking about the traditional 2026 playoff with 14 or 16 teams.
Mm-hmm.
And ACC, Big 12, Big
Sure.
10. And maybe Josh is talking about a Big 10 SEC only playoff
for 2026?
for 2026. In other words, this is the breakaway plan for the Big Ten.
But Josh Pate did not talk about. Now maybe I'm incorrect, but I watched most of his report. He did not talk about a breakaway in 2026. He would incorporate the other conferences in what he's being told.
And I say that because even his post
I'll put it up on the screen.
Mentions nothing about anything other than Big Ten.
Well, at the end of it, he says it'll produce a conference champ to compete in a CFP, possibly reduced in size. So
correct, a conference champ from the SEC and a conference champ from the Big Ten. Period.
Oh, well, okay, all right. I think he would have probably said SEC and Big Ten champ play each other, but okay.
Only if he knew.
Yeah. Interesting. So you're thinking that maybe what Josh Pate is saying, but he didn't really say it, but maybe there's a certain break at 2026 where the Big Ten
He's
and the
implying.
SEC. Yep.
He's implying that this is a backup plan in the event. His contacts are telling him this is a backup plan for the SEC and the Big Ten.
Okay.
If they can't get their stuff together in the next 30 days and give ESPN what they want.
Now,
so
maybe,
if you don't get some compromising from the Big 12 and the ACC and the Group of Five as to the AQs, as to the money distribution, etc., perhaps this is the Big Ten SEC backup plan to say, okay, we're out.
Okay. Now, if it was the backup plan, I do not believe Josh Pate used the phrase backup plan. He did say, and if you look in his post, two things I believed are baked into it. And then he talked about the divisions, the conferences going into 4 divisions. But yeah, you're saying that this could be a leverage. They're using this as leverage to get a compromise with everybody, favoring the SEC and the Big Ten.
Maybe not even as leverage, but as if we can't resolve this, ACC, Big 12, SEC, and Big Ten, if the 4 of us can't get this to work, the Big Ten and the SEC have a backup plan, a real good one. And as far as the divisions, I'm thinking for 2026, you're looking at 20 teams in the Big Ten, 20 teams in the SEC, and 2 divisions of 10 each. Division doesn't have to be 5. It can be 10 teams.
A division of 10 teams and a division of 10 teams?
In the Big Ten. And a division of 10 teams and a division of 10 teams in the SEC.
Well, then how does a Big Ten team play another Big Ten team on the other side of the conference?
Same way they did when they had same way they did last year. Didn't they play 6 within the division and 3 outside?
Yeah, but
well, you can do it with 10 and 10. You can play six within your division of 10,
Yeah.
and then 3 outside your division of 10.
Yeah, but if you're going to have 2 divisions of 10 teams, you're going to have 9 conference games in your one division. And then what are you going to do? You're going to have 10 conference games and play 1 on the other side?
Could.
Huh?
Yeah, you could.
Look, I'm good. I'm. These athletic directors of the Big Ten, they want their teams to play all of the teams in the Big Ten as much as possible within 3 years. I mean, this is the reality. I think the chances of a conference going, the Big Ten of going to 10-10 is probably 0% or 1%, to be honest. Because these athletic directors want their school to play all the other Big Ten schools as much as possible, as quickly as possible. This is
Then I guess it would go back to what I said, where you wouldn't be playing 9 within your division of 10.
If
You'd be only playing 6. And you'd still have 9 within the conference.
If you're not playing everybody in your division to figure out who's the best team in your division, then the credibility of your division champion just goes through the floor. I don't think that's a possibility.
It's resolved in the playoffs.
Okay.
Whatever discrepancy you had with who was chosen from the division of 10 is all resolved when the conference playoff begins.
Okay.
Right?
I won't say right, but possibly. I think this is, that I respect your creativity on this. I think it opens
all of the money is kept in the conference.
Yeah.
All of the money is kept in the SEC and then the Big 12. Big 10.
Okay.
And they certainly want that.
Yes, they do.
And if this were to come about, this would be a contract negotiated between SEC, Big 10, and whatever TV networks.
Okay. All right. Interesting. We got another theory out there. I appreciate it, Rick.
I appreciate your time. Thanks.
You got it. Appreciate it. All right. We got more calls coming in. A lot of division talk this morning. I never thought last night we'd be having this discussion.
Call from.
Hello. Oh, someone call back. Call back. I got you as quick as possible. Give me a call back. I did not think that when I did my live show yesterday, I did not believe there was any chance we'd be talking about the restructuring of divisions, possibly in the SEC and the Big Ten and maybe everywhere. But according to Josh Pate, it seems like a possibility.
Call from.
Rock and Rant.
Rock and Rant, Mr. PATC Hurricane. The floor is yours. What do you got to say, good sir?
Good morning. How are you doing today?
I'm doing great. How are you, sir?
I'm awake now, so
Good.
wanted to call on a couple of things. First, on the divisions concept, forget about what the ultimate inclusion to the playoffs is or not. I know you were mentioning that for the Big Ten, the top 4 teams, if they had no divisions, would get that's the interest they want on the race. But you can make an argument that divisions actually makes more of an interest on the races, right? Because if you look at the NFL as an example, sometimes you see a division where they are, the division itself is down and a 7 and 9 team can come in.
Yeah.
So in theory, if you go into the division side, a team that is essentially 11th or 12th on a conference-wide level could actually be second in their division. So I have a pretty strong argument that it could actually extend the interest in the regular season.
Okay, let me stop you right there, though. You're absolutely correct. From a fan's point of view, from an NFL point of view, you know, you could have more interest because one division could be down, but the teams in that division they'd still be interest because they're competing for that top spot in the division. But I just want to point this out. This is exactly what the Buckeyes, the Wolverines, and the Nittany Lions don't want to happen in the Big Ten. They don't want that scenario to happen. They push for the squashing of the two divisions. I think they push. This is one of the many reasons why I don't think this is going to happen. But I just wanted to point that out. It's exactly why the Buckeyes, the Nittany Lions, and the Wolverines said, we're not doing this anymore. We're not going to have divisions. But go ahead, Rock and Matt.
Well, you could also just go around and if you go there's a difference between two divisions and a difference between four divisions, right? And who's in your league and your how you split up the powers that be, whether it's in a logical way or a way to make sure that Michigan, Ohio State, whoever, Wisconsin, all have a fighting chance. And that sort of rolls into the next point of one day U.S. was not in World War II and the next day you were. Right? Things change. It doesn't mean that you need to take an L for something, right? Information is right at the time it is, and then things happen. So if the meetings go a bad way, people can't agree, everything can change. A new idea, a new solution has to come around. And I almost sort of think that this entire thing that's going on right now, not that it was planned, but whether it's the lawsuits, the NCAA related things, and I mean lawsuits, I meant like the FSU suing the ACC, the general lawsuits going on around the NCAA and NIL and then conference realignment, it almost feels like some of the powers that be are just going to try to figure out how to get everything done, even if it all doesn't start officially in 2026 because it takes time to layer it out, but letting everybody know that here's our plan. These schools are going to be moving. Some are moving in 2025. Some are moving in 2029 because every time you keep making this happen, you're every time you're making the new rules, every time you're negotiating again, you're not actually making the sport better. You're not actually making more money because you're talking to each other instead of talking to others that could bring more money in, can improve the things you're handling because you don't know what your future is laying out. So I almost wonder if the things you've been hearing about, what Josh was relating, if in the background things are moving so fast because everyone is just exhausted with this going on all of the time and not talking about what spring practice is going to be. And maybe it's all going to come to a head, even if that means, for example, that Notre Dame and Florida State do move to the Big Ten in 2025 and Clemson or whoever doesn't move till 2028 or whatever the SEC is going to do. It just feels like it's like The Godfather. And the theoretical Michael Corleone is taking all the families out at one time and cleaning everything up to move forward. Mm-hmm. And I'm just curious, like, what your take is on if maybe there are some of the powers that be are trying to think of it that way because they don't want to do this again in another year, let alone the lawsuit that they still have to handle.
And that's
they get settled.
Yeah. Okay. First of all, I appreciate. I'll answer two parts of your great call here. One is, I do appreciate you saying that information changes, information moves, that maybe I don't have to take the L. I would take the L if there is creation of divisions in the Big Ten. Because I checked last night, this morning. I'm definitely going to take the L. No question about it. Even though you are correct, things change, blah, blah, blah. But I would take the L. If it happens for 26, 27, or the year 2028, if there are divisions created in the Big Ten, I'm definitely going to take the L. Number two, and I forgot what my number two was. Oh, yes. You just made a great point. They don't want to keep having to redo this again. That is why I don't even know how you, and again, I'll put up Josh Pate's post here. I don't know how you plan to incorporate the conference tournament into the 2026 playoffs while the inclusion with the G5 and the ACC and the Big 12. You don't even know for sure you're even going to expand to a 20 team. You might be stuck with 3 pods of 6. It even throws more just crap against the wall in trying to figure out what you're going to be looking like in 2000. I'm not buying this. I'm not buying it for so many different reasons, but that's another reason. They're not going to want to go, whatever they get in 2026, they don't want to change it for 27, 28. With every FBS school in Notre Dame and by the conferences themselves. They want to settle on something.
They definitely want to. And the thing is, like, everyone's very stuck, and understandably, and take out the ludicrous ACC grant the rights to 2036 without actually having a contract past 2027 example. All contracts are set, but they have addendums and things get adjusted for a reason.
Yeah.
You need to have two willing partners, right? So it doesn't matter whether today in the contract, someone can't add another school for this amount of money because the contract doesn't allow for it. They've already done their allocation. That could change tomorrow with the negotiation if you have two willing partners. Maybe the Big Ten is figuring, well, and maybe they're plotting with Fox that they want the model that you don't think is going to happen because Fox got shut out of the playoff conversation. So what you can do is maybe the playoffs start, quote unquote, in conference with your existing media partners. They get more, quote unquote, playoff inventory for Fox. And then that leads in to a smaller playoff that Fox doesn't seem like they were going to go. There's so much going on.
Yeah.
Like, that's why you call it cloak and dagger.
Yeah.
But you can make changes to a contract. Everyone a couple of years ago, well, Oklahoma and Texas aren't going to be joining the SEC till year X, except for they actually joined earlier, right? Like,
yeah.
It's almost irrelevant, long as you have people willing to pay a price that people are willing to accept, because then you can do an adjustment period. So I think it's entirely possible that a lot more is going on that maybe even 3 weeks ago people weren't thinking was going to go on, right? Maybe the little FSU tidbits that are happening in the ACC court case or ESPN going insane on Friday. All of those things lead together to the ground moving underneath the negotiation. And what comes out of it might be nothing that anyone thought was possible 4 weeks ago. For all we know, ESPN is doing this hardball thing, and they're ultimately going to backdoor to the ACC and say, listen, and we know you're done. We know what's in the contract, but we are going to give you a lifeline at this level, but we're poaching these 3 or 4 schools, but you're still going to have a TV contract around the same money that your teams were going to expect through 2036. And all of a sudden that changes tomorrow. My personal take is that most of the conference stuff, even if some schools move at different times, is actually going to happen before the middle of August, before the season is. I think we all think the Florida State's going to happen sooner, but I think a lot more of it's going to happen, even if it's staggered in the execution. But I think if one thing is clear over the last 4 weeks, 4 months, 2 years, every single thing we think is going to happen is going to change.
Got it. Beautiful, Rock and Rant. Mr. Hurricane, I love your call. You brought up a lot of great points. You got me thinking. You got the chat thinking. Beautiful, sir.
Have a great day, and let's see if we wind up talking again later today.
Yeah, we might have to. Thank you again, sir.
Right.
Great call. Heartbreak 25. It must be restated that Josh prefaced all of this by saying this conversation is a snapshot in time and not finalized. Yep. He said that nobody knew what the final outcome was going to be. Not even Tony Petiti. Not even Greg Sankey. Yep. He did say that over and over again, especially at the start of his show last night. But he also reposted it out on X this morning. So that's why we're doing a live show, because when he reposted it, he said it was baked in. It seems like he was inferring that the conversations about this vision is a little bit further along than what he first said on the show. That's what I got out of it. That post this morning, we'll put it up on the screen again here in a little bit. John Teal. This caller was onto something. John Teal was referring to the caller before, but I say 4 pods. Hold on.
Call from
JD.
JD, can you hold on for a moment, sir?
Yes, sir. Yes,
I
sir.
appreciate it. John Teal, Super Chat. This caller was on to something, but I say 4 pods of 5. That's 4 games. Then you play another pod, which is 5 games. That's 9 conference games. And then John with another Super Chat. The Big Ten went to 20 with Florida State and Notre Dame. Then 5 pods of 4. I think it would be 4 pods of 5. But either way, again, thank you for the generosity, John. But I gotta say something here. And I'll take the L on this. But if the Big Ten goes to positive divisions for 2026, 27, 28, I'm going to take the big L on this because everything I've been told, and I know things change, I get it, but everything we've been told here at Peek Around the Corner, on every part of this, the Big Ten, so many powers to be in the Big Ten wanted not to have divisions. They don't want pods. They don't want 4 divisions. They want everybody to play everybody as much as possible. And that's why they're pushing for the 4 auto bids for the top 4 teams. That's where they want to go. That's where the media partner wants to go. So this is all very, very outside the box of what PATC has been believing, what is going on. The good thing about all this, ladies and gentlemen, is we're going to get more reports, possibly more theories, possibly more scenarios, maybe or maybe not. Maybe we'll get something from Pete Thamel later this evening, or Brett McMurphy saying it's down to this. This is what they're working on. This is what they're going to try to get done. The one part of this that everybody in the industry has one consensus is they want to get this done soon. They want to get this done in the next month. The 10 FBS commissioners and Notre Dame. So we're going to be finding more things out here, and I don't think we're going to have to wait until 3 months down the road. JD, Mr. Seminole, I appreciate your patience once again. The floor is yours.
No problem, sir, and I'm enjoying this early morning show. It actually helps pass the time while I'm working, and I wasn't going to call in, but this was a little too much to just throw in the chat. So, sometimes when you have a scenario or you're trying to reach an objective and you know what the final result looks like, and you even come to an agreement what the final result should be, and then you look back and you can't figure out how to get there. Mm-hmm. You know where you want to go, but you can't figure out how you get there. I think it's a scenario where the things that you're hearing have been accurate, but maybe the things that Josh is hearing are accurate. The desire to get to 4 auto builds, to get to 16-team tournament, you lose, and it's already been discussed, you lose the structure in the conference of how do you get the 4 teams. You lose the purpose of having the conference anyway because you more or less just select 4 teams. And so I think they're working backwards now, or they're considering moving backwards, not to change, the extent of the playoff, but I mean, Greg, if you can't get a true conference champion or you can't establish a true conference hierarchy, how can you prove the legitimacy of the tournament? You just can't. How do you seed teams? How do you do? How do you tell if seed 1, 2, 3, 4 out of the Big Ten is even the right order? Because you didn't play the same teams. Mm-hmm. You just can't do it. So maybe that's just come across where they're realizing, and again, I think it's all suggestions. I think there's different camps that want different things. But I like the idea, and I don't know if these numbers work, okay? But maybe you don't have one Big Ten team, maybe you have 2. Maybe you don't have one ACC team, you have 2. Instead of you doing a 16-team national playoff, you do 8. I don't even know that number is necessary. I think the playoff's going to expand. But I think if they go to 16 with these 4 auto bids without properly selecting a conference champion, whether they do it initially or a few years down the road afterward, they're going to revert back. They're going to say, all right, we need to have our conference playoff. We need to have the SEC Big Ten playoff. So whether it happens in the beginning or after the fact, it's going to happen because there's going to be pushback from the fans. There's going to be arguments within the fan bases that, okay, you know, FSU, well, I'm not going to use FSU because we don't even know what conference they're going to be in. Let's just take the SEC. Georgia played a tougher schedule, okay, and beat a team that Bama didn't beat, but Bama's got a better record, okay? So now Bama's seed is better because their record is better, but we didn't have a conference championship, so how do we even know who's the fight between the fans? And, you know, that's, you know, the verbal sparring on social media. It's just going to create a chaos. You know, let's just have our conference playoffs, and then whether you want one team or 2 teams to come out of those conferences, however, but they're trying to get to the end and create this big, you know, money-making tournament, but they're missing the pieces that get you there. You got to figure that out first before you can go to the 16. Because I don't even know if the 16 is even necessary. If you could do the other part first. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So I just think there's people that are possibly saying, okay, because I absolutely believe, and trust me, I have trust in you because as far as the things that you've been saying, as far as FSU have checked out from other things that I've heard and then through other fan bases and things that I've heard. So I trust your information. I just think that, you know, there's different factions now that are coming up with different opinions, and I favor this opinion that we need to work backwards. We're not reducing the playoff. We're just making sure that the conferences are properly decided in the right way before we move on to the national playoff. And you know, like I said, whether that's one coming out of each conference, I don't see that. I think the SEC and Big Ten are still going to want 2 to come out of each. And then they might give the ACC, they will give the ACC and Big 12 1. But however all that works out, my numbers that I'm throwing out may not work out, but they've got to get step A done first before they can get step B. And step B is the national playoff. And I don't know how you do that in a month. You know, the only thing I can think of is, you know, well, I don't know. But so I've changed, I've done a complete 180 in the last 2 days, you know, because I other people were raising great points as far as, you know, you're losing the validity of your conference hierarchy, your conference schedule. You know, there's pageantry in college football. You know, you do have rivalries. You do have all the rest of that. And when you're just talking about trying to be one of the 16 teams and your conference doesn't mean anything, it's just a seeding
okay.
process.
Let me play devil's advocate. Okay, let me play devil's advocate. What if, you know, let's just pretend, and let's say there's the 16-team playoff, and the Big Ten. We're gonna focus on Big Ten here. We could do it with the SEC. We could do it with anybody. We'll just stick with the Big Ten. There's 16 teams in the Big Ten. There's a 16-team playoff. You have a Big Ten a conference race, 18 teams, 20 teams, right? It doesn't, you know, this whatever they set in place. Let's just say they set in place that the 16-team playoff for 2026. That means if the Big Ten expands to 20 teams or not, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. It doesn't affect anything when it comes to the 16-team playoff. It's already there. 16-team playoff. 4 auto bids go to the Big Ten. So you have your 18 or 20 teams playing a conference schedule. And the top 4 of your conference get an auto bid. And the top 2 play a conference championship game. Okay? To see who's one of the top 4 seeded in the 16-team playoff. But you still have the possibility of the 5th team in the Big Ten getting a large bid. There's a possible opportunity there. Same with the SEC. The conference races in the ACC, the Big 12. What about that doesn't work for you? What does that, are you saying it's not credible that maybe the 5th or 6th Big Ten team is really the 3rd or 4th best team? I don't quite get why isn't that credible?
Well, I probably didn't square away in my mind that I don't think the 2 divisions is for either of these super conferences. I don't think that's feasible anymore.
Yeah, but I'm not talking divisions here. I'm just talking 18-team conference or 20 team. I'm of the opinion, and this is what I'm working off of, and that's how I came to my conclusion, that pods are the only way. You can't do 2 divisions. You're going to have to do either 4 divisions or pods. That's what I think, and so that's what my mind is working towards. So each one of those 4, because they played their division schedule and or pod schedule, are going to want equal chances to compete. So I see an additional game being played, and then in my mind, the college football, the amount of games these kids are going to be playing now is growing significantly. Now we're talking about there's a potential for a 14-game conference schedule for some of these teams, and there's still a playoff. So now you're talking about 17, 18 games, or I haven't done the exact math on how many there are possible. So Yeah.
that's where I am. I maybe the conferences or the teams in the conference will be accepting enough that the 2 with the best record play in the conference championship. And if they are, then that's fine. Then that solves the problem. And your scenario you presented a minute ago was probably the most logical. But I do think that there's going to be there's going to be a lot of people that think that it should be a conference semifinal and then a conference championship game. And so how do you work that in? And I don't know. Maybe they don't have to have all this figured out right now. But maybe they can just say, all right, we're going to do the 16, and then we're going to let the conferences figure out how they get there 4. Mm-hmm. And maybe that's the easiest solution.
Yeah.
But I kind of lean more towards the conference playoff, and then maybe a slightly reduced national tournament. But one thing's for certain:
that's what Josh Pate believes is going to happen, or he believes there is some traction to that.
But my opinion is not set in stone, so I may change my mind tomorrow.
Yeah.
So it just is what it is. But
Alrighty,
but
man.
I do believe they have to figure out what they're going to do with their conferences, or at least have a framework of what they're going to do with their conferences before they can decide, 100% on what the national playoff would be. So that's the hard part. Well, I don't know. It's all hard. But anyway.
Yeah.
Glad it's not my job.
Yeah.
But anyway. All right.
JD. Sorry
to take so much time.
Appreciate
I was just going to throw this in the chat, but this was too much. All right. Thanks.
Got it. You got it. Yeah, and then you have the Notre Dame question. So if you're not in a conference, I don't know. I mean, you basically you're forcing Notre Dame in. You would have to. Notre Dame would either have to play along or I think, man, if it happens anywhere close to what Josh Pate is saying here, what he's being told, there's so many moving parts to this, and I'm not a believer all these moving parts can happen. We shall see. Again, we live in very interesting times. We're going to be getting more and more reports as the days go on here, because they got to get all this solved within a month, or they would like to. ESPN would love them to. The media partner who's putting out the $1.3 billion a year. Very interesting. Again, if you're new to the channel, if you haven't subscribed yet, please subscribe to the channel and have your notifications on. We can come on live at any time. In the morning during the breakfast show, that's what we did this morning. We could come on live again later this evening. If there's more reporting on the college football playoffs, and I think there's going to be, we're probably going to come on live again later tonight. You got to keep your head on a swivel. But to do so, you got to subscribe and have your notifications on. And please smash the like button if you like our content. John Teal, conference playoff starts week 0. Come in top 4. And John Teal just leave Notre Dame in the ACC for half the money. Yeah, for all that to work, they're going to have to figure out what they do with Notre Dame. Thank you, John Teal, for your super chat. Again, I just want to reiterate something. Look, we have Peek Around the Corner. We could be wrong, but we have been told almost just like Greg, leave me alone type of conversations since the Josh Pate report of last night came out. There are people not buying this. There are a couple people that, say, well, anything's possible. All scenarios are being brought up. We've had a couple of people say this is not what the Big Ten has no interest in what Josh Pate is talking about. Obviously, I'm talking to different people than Josh Pate is. We're going to find out. Again, nobody knows exactly how this is going to go. How could they? How could they? But also remember, like what Heartbreak 25 said in the chat and others, snapshot in time, there's a lot of things getting brought up, a lot of discussions going on. All I can tell you is there were big-time people in the Big Ten who worked hard to get rid of those 2 divisions, and I don't think they have any interest in 4 pods of 5 if they expand to 20 for the near future. Could that change? If the SEC and the Big Ten breaks away from everybody else, could that change? Years down the road, yes. But, I just don't see this happening. I do not. We shall see. Anyways, we're going to shut down the live show. This was a breakfast show. We're getting past the noon hour on the East Coast, 11:16 Central Time. I want to thank everybody who has come on in to this emergency live morning show. Josh Pate once again. 2 things I believe are baked into the ongoing playoffs talks. Big Ten and the SEC are preparing to expand again. That we agree with. One or both will restructure into 4 divisions and look to construct internal conference title mechanisms, produce a conference semifinals, which we've talked before, or will produce a conference champ to compete in the CFP, possibly reduce in size. We do not agree here at Peek Around the Corner, but we shall see. And the good thing is, we're all going to find out soon here in the next 4 weeks, or at least we pray that we're going to find out soon in the next 4 weeks. Again, thank you all for coming. Thank you so much for the generosity, the super chats, John Teal. I appreciate it very much. I appreciate the great comments, the great phone calls. Keep your head on a swivel. It's going to be a busy, busy, busy day. And we could very well come on again later tonight. Keep your eyes open. Follow us at Flug Empire on X, formerly known as Twitter. The college football playoffs, it's got to get worked out. It has to get worked out. Buckle up, brace for impact, and well, until next time. From all of us at Peek Around the Corner, college football's Peek Around the Corner. Until next time, from all of us to all of you, please,